Hi everyone, I am just going to wait for a few moments just to make sure that the notifications for today's live session have gone through to everyone. I usually don't like to start speaking straight away because most people haven't been notified. So there's usually a 20 to 30 second lag. That's why I like to wait for a bit. So it's a dull, gloomy, rainy Sunday here in Sydney, but fortunately I am someone who adores the rain. It's one of my favorite seasons. So whenever it's raining, I'm actually quite thrilled. So if there's any other rain lovers out there, I'm sure you're having a great day. Hi Philomena, how are you from Malaysia? Lovely to see you. Hi Dipali. Hi Shrivani, how are you? Namaste to you too. Hi Prahlad, I'm well thanks. How are you doing? Hi Manasi. Oh, good to see everyone logging in. Hopefully you're having a nice Sunday so far. Mine has been fairly relaxed. I made masala dosas for lunch today, and that's quite a time-consuming affair, but well worth it in the end. It's one of my favorite dishes, so that's good. Philomena is enjoying rain. I'm definitely enjoying the rain. I would actually love to go for a nice walk in the rain. As long as it's not raining too hard, I would love to go and have a quick walk, a brisk walk. So today I'm actually talking about a very, very important topic. It's about managing time. And like I said in yesterday's very short video in the lead up to today's session, Sydney continues to be in lockdown, and I just find that overall morale is quite low for a lot of people. Many of us are working from home, and as a result of that, many of us are feeling quite overwhelmed. And as a result of feeling overwhelmed, we are a bit demotivated. And I'm sure that's not just here in Sydney, that's all over the world. A lot of people are feeling overwhelmed and are feeling demotivated. So I thought that I will share some of my own personal strategies that I have used over the years that I have found effective in staying on track with my goals and achieving my midterm and long-term goals and short-term goals as well. So I thought I'll share some of those strategies with you today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Nim Holkar. I'm a life coach, author, motivational speaker based in Sydney, Australia. Sunday Chats with Nim is my weekly Facebook live show, which I've been doing since mid-2018. And each week I bring you topics to help you get ahead, both in your personal and professional lives. Those of you who've been on this journey with me for the last 3 years, you know the drill. When you log in, I love it when you say hi and tell me which part of the world you are tuning in from, because that is something that's always been of great interest to me, to know where my tribe is and where we are all connecting from. So if you get a moment, please stop for a second to type and say hi to me and tell me which city you are logging in from. All right, so if you have any questions related to today's topic, which is about productivity and time management, I request you to ask me those questions during the live session, because that's the only way I'm going to be able to give a response. If you ask me a question after the session has ended, then unfortunately I'm not able to respond to you. So if you have anything that you want to share with me, including insights or your own experiences about productivity or time management, please do share that during the live session. All right. Before I get started, I wanted to read out a couple of very interesting quotes that I happened to find online related to productivity, related to time management. So the first one is by Paul Meyer, who said, "Productivity is never an accident. It's always the result of a commitment to excellence, intelligent planning, and focused effort." I found that a great quote. And the second quote is by one of my favorite authors, Henry David Thoreau, who said, "It's not enough to be busy. The question is, what are we busy about?" Like I always say, being busy and being productive, two very different things. Now, today's session is interesting because I'm actually going to share with you some very interesting stories and anecdotes from history. And if you are a bit of a history buff like I am, you will enjoy today's session. Okay, so there will definitely be actionable strategies that you can take away with you and practice. But I'm also going to entertain you with some very short stories that give you a bit of a backdrop to the techniques that I will be sharing with you today. So first question I actually want to ask all you wonderful people, can you think of one or two reasons why many people are unproductive? What are some of the most common reasons why people are not able to be productive, are not able to stay on track with their goals, or are not able to achieve what they set out to achieve? What do you think might be a common reason? I'll just wait for a few moments while you think and you type. And if any of my wonderful clients have tuned in, you all know what I say, that you don't have to worry about whether your answer is right or wrong. You just dive in and give it a shot, because that's the only way you are going to be able to step outside your comfort zone and build your confidence in a group setting. So the question I've just put forward to all of you is, what could be one reason why people are not as productive as they would like to be? And there's no right or wrong answer, so go ahead and share whatever you think might be a common reason for that. What are some reasons why people are unproductive? Kajal Mehta. Hi Kajal, good to see you too. Hi Mandy. Dipali says because they have excuses. Very good answer, Dipali. You're absolutely right. One of the reasons people are not productive is because they come up with some amazing excuses that they truly believe are their reality, when in reality they're not. They're actually just excuses, but they start believing them. So yep, that's a great answer. Another reason why people are unproductive is there are too many distractions. I'm sure many of you would agree that a lot of our work would be done quicker, faster, and in a timely manner if we didn't have as many distractions as we do. So distractions is one big reason. Excuses is another big reason. Hi Prachi. Prachi says, hey Nim, one reason could be not prioritizing. Absolutely right. Prioritization, or the lack thereof, is one of the biggest causes of unproductivity or not being able to stay on track. Good answer, Prachi. Another one is whenever you have something that is really big, a big task that needs to be done, we tend to get overwhelmed. Has that ever happened to any of you, where you felt overwhelmed and you're not sure where to start because the task just seems so big? I certainly have struggled with that at different points in my career. So we tend to get overwhelmed. I actually once met this lady who told me that, Nim, I have this massive project that I want to start working on. And I know that it will, have a number of steps before I can complete it, but I can only think of the first 4 steps, and I can't imagine what the 5th step would be. Now, because she could not think of step number 5, she had frozen and she wasn't allowing herself to even get started with the project. This is where a majority of the population gets stuck. They know the first 4 steps, they don't know step number 5. Or they know the first 8 steps, they don't know step number 9. They know there is another step, but they don't know what that is, right? And that freezes them. They don't do anything more. They just wait for divine intervention and to figure out the next step before they get started. But here's what I do. If I know the first 4 steps, I don't stress or agonize over step number 5. I'll just get started with the darn thing. Because you know what will happen? Once you start building momentum, once you take step number 1 and then step number 2 and step number 3, doors that had been closed until then start opening. You start interacting with new people. You have aha moments where you figure out what the next steps are. So by the time you arrive at step number 4, So much has happened until then. You've spoken to so many people. You've grown as a person that you are able to then figure out step number 5, which is what I say to you. Don't wait to have all the answers before you get started, because you're going to be waiting an entire lifetime. All right? So basically, now you might be thinking, yeah, I know I've got to do that, but what is step number 1? I don't even know what is step number 1. Another reason why people don't take action, they don't know what is step number 1. Okay, so here's, if you've been a physics student, and I haven't, it was my least favorite subject, but I do know that Isaac Newton's first law of motion, which is also called the law of inertia, said that a body at rest continues to be at rest, and a body in motion continues to be in motion until and unless it is acted upon by an outside force. So what does that mean? That if you have been inactive or you haven't taken action for a long period of time, there is no way you are going to find the courage to get started, right? You're going to be frozen. And like Isaac Newton said, a body at rest continues to be at rest. If you keep waiting for the perfect first step to get started, you're not going to take that step. So what I suggest, ask yourself, at this point in my life, what do I think is the most obvious first step? Don't worry if that's the right decision or not. Just get started. You need to move from inaction to action. You need to move from inertia to motion. Once you take that first step, you may well realize, damn, that wasn't the first step. There was something else I should have done before. Well, then do it then. Like I always say, you can't edit a blank page. You've got to write some rubbish material before you can edit it. Okay? So that's the secret to getting started. If you've been overwhelmed for a long time and you don't know what the first step is, I suggest don't overthink it. Just take whatever you think is the obvious step in this given moment, get started. It's taking the first step that is the hardest, but we tend to overthink. We want it to be the perfect first step. The real enemy is inaction. The real enemy is not whether or not that first step is correct. Okay? And another reason people are not productive is because they don't set deadlines. When you don't set a deadline, the work just stretches endlessly. There's no sense of urgency, and you think, I can do it tomorrow, I can do it next week, almost as though next week you are miraculously going to be a far more productive, energetic, enthusiastic, confident person. It ain't happening, right? So I suggest, however big or small the task is, set a deadline. Just say to yourself, I'm going to get this done by 5 p.m. today. I'm going to get this done before 5 o'clock on Friday. I'm going to get this done in a month's time. Just set a specific deadline and then work backwards. Okay, and one of the last reasons that I could think of today is for not being productive is many of us are spending a lot of our emotional energy on worrying about things that are outside our control. Now, here's the thing. Energy is a finite resource. From sunrise to sunset, we all get given a specific amount of energy. Okay? Now, if you use up all of it on worrying about things that are not within your control, where on earth are you going to find energy to do all the things that you've written so neatly in your to-do list? Energy is finite. Okay, you'll get a fresh lot of energy when you wake up in the morning, but most of us are actually depleting that finite resource on a daily basis on tasks that we really shouldn't be worrying about because they're not in our control to solve or do anything about. Okay, so these were some of the common reasons why people are unproductive. I'm going to dive into my 3 strategies for actually being more productive and staying on track just in a moment, but I'm going to read some of the lovely comments that are here. Time for my glasses. Okay, where are we? Let me just scroll down. Kajal Mehta says one of the reasons people are not productive is because they lack focus. Absolutely right. Yes, Kajal, good answer. Praveen, Falle says lack of direction. Yeah, very good one. We don't have any direction. We don't have clarity on which direction to move in. That's another reason why people freeze. Hi, Archana. Nilanthi, not focusing on the priorities. Yep, good answer. We don't prioritize. Bernadette, hi. How are you, Bernadette? Good to see you. Narinder, interesting talk. Thank you very much. Glad you're enjoying. All right, so. Hi, Avi. Avi says, right, wasting time on worries. Yep, I've done many different videos on how we waste a major chunk of our lives worrying about things that we can do nothing about, which is such a sad waste of time. Unfortunately, so many of us are living like we're going to live forever. But we all know we're not going to live forever. We're here on this planet. We're blessed to have this human life just for a short amount of time. And sadly, many of us are just drifting through life. We're just reacting to things that happen instead of proactively designing our life, right? So let's stop worrying about things that we can do nothing about. If there's something you can do about it, get up and take action. If there's nothing you can do about it, leave it to some higher force, okay? And let that higher force look after it for you. If there's nothing you can do, you might as well change your focus and start doing things that are within your control. All right, so I'm going to share with you my top 3 strategies that I often use in my line of work. And as those of you who know me well, you know that I spend a lot of my time doing things that lie outside my comfort zone. I'm always putting my hand up for new challenges, and that means that I really have to stay on track and manage my time well, because, you know, I'm also looking after my family and looking after my kids, writing my books, running my business, which means I need to be able to manage my time well. So I'm going to share with you some strategies, and I don't believe I've shared these before in any of my past videos. So if you have a notebook and a pen, please jot down some thoughts or whatever it is that you are taking away from today's session, because trust me, these techniques have worked for me, have helped me achieve my short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. So I'm pretty sure, pretty confident that they're going to help you too. Okay, so the first technique that I use is called the Pomodoro Technique, P-O-M-O-D-O-R-O. Don't stress, I will write this in the comments later once the live session is ended. The Pomodoro Technique. Okay, so the Pomodoro, which in Italian stands for tomato or tomato, whichever way you wish to pronounce it. This technique was invented by a person of Italian heritage by the name of Francesco Cirillo. Back in his university days, when he was trying to figure out a technique to stay focused on his studies in preparation for his upcoming exams. Okay, so how does this technique work, and how can you use it in your day-to-day professional and personal life to stay on track with your goals? Now, basically what you've got to do is create a to-do list. Okay, so every day you have a certain number of tasks that you have to get done. Then what you do is you select one task and you work on it single-mindedly, no other task except that one task, for an interval of 25 minutes at a stretch. Now, this 25-minute time interval is called a Pomodoro. Okay, a Pomodoro, like I said, is tomato in Italian, and the name came because Francesco Cirillo used a tomato-shaped kitchen timer to time his 25-minute intervals when he was studying. So what you can do is you know, if you're a bit old-fashioned, you can use one of those old-fashioned kitchen timers, which I personally love, or you can use your phone, the timer on your phone, set it for 25 minutes, and for 25 minutes, you turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to all distractions, and you just work on one single task. In those 25 minutes, you don't answer the doorbell, you don't answer the phone, you don't answer your emails, you don't go to the bathroom, you just work on those on that task for 25 minutes. At the end of 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break. After the 5 minutes, you come back and go through another 25 minutes. So that's the second Pomodoro. And you work on a different task for the next 25 minutes. So you go through a cycle of 4 Pomodoros, that is 4 25-minute intervals, where you work single-mindedly on one task and you don't allow any distractions. Okay? After 4 Pomodoros, you take a longer break of 15 to 30 minutes. Now, here's what you can do in the 5-minute breaks between each Pomodoro. Here is what I would do typically. I would either go and make myself a tea or a coffee or have a drink of water. Another thing I like to do, I like to go out in my backyard and I like to just look up at the sun with my eyes closed and soak in the sunshine. Okay? The 5 minutes can be used as a bathroom break. The 5 minutes can be used to make an urgent phone call. The 5-minute break can be used to do some light stretches, so that you are refreshed. Now, what is the reason, or what is the scientific backdrop for having these 25-minute time intervals? Well, firstly, because the human attention span is so short, science has proved that we can work for 25 minutes at a stretch without procrastinating. Okay, and the 5-minute breaks between the Pomodoros is so that you can, hit the reset button and come back with renewed focus on whatever the next task it is that you choose to work on. So has that made sense to everybody, what the Pomodoro technique is and how it works? Does anyone have any questions? Everyone's gone very silent. Where are all my lovely comments? Where are all the people? No highs, no nothing. All of you who just joined in, please say hi, Nim, and let me know where you're logging in from, which part of the world, which city. I love reading your comments. So the Pomodoro technique, okay, that is an amazing technique that you can use to stay focused. Work on single tasks for 25 minutes at a stretch, and after that, you take a break for 5 minutes. Then you have the next Pomodoro, the next lot of 25 minutes. Then you take a 5-minute break. So after 4 Pomodoros, 4 cycles of 25 minutes each, you take a longer break, a 15 to 30 minutes break. If you're working from home, that's probably when you'd have lunch or prepare lunch or make preparations for dinner or start the washing machine or hang the clothes out for drying, whatever it is that you've got to do. But that is how you stay focused. That is personally how I stay focused. I've been practicing the Pomodoro technique for a long time, and honestly, it will transform your life. Okay? Let's see what people are saying. Deepak, I'll say people are writing down. Well, that's good to know, Deepak. I'm glad you all are taking down some notes, because today's strategies that I am sharing are some unique strategies that I've learned of, from various sources over the past so many years, and they've been helping me. They've been very, very effective. And there's a bit of storytelling behind it as well. So I'm trying to make it interesting for you all so you don't fall asleep on this rainy Sunday afternoon. At least here in Sydney, it is raining. Sunita, hi, how are you? Bernadette says, Nim, your topics, hold on. I need to wear my glasses. Nim, your topics always are right on, especially now. Pomodoro technique would be great. Yes, it is. I mean, a lot of us are working from home. We are overwhelmed. We are not managing our time well, and having this technique truly can transform your life. Dipali, I got so engaged in listening to you. Oh, thank you. Philomena says, interesting. Bernadette says, I'm taking notes and always use your tips. Thank you so much, Bernadette. I'm glad to hear that, and I hope that those tips are helping all of you. Okay, so that was the first strategy, the Pomodoro technique. The second one, okay, now this one, many of you might have a slightly different viewpoint on this, okay? Ever since I was a child, I've come hearing that tackle the hardest task first. Start with the most difficult task, because everything after that will be easier. And trust me, like a good student of the School of Life, I have practiced this. But here's the thing about me that you need to know. I don't just accept things without first questioning them. I like to question to find out if there is an alternate way of doing things that might be more effective for me. Okay, maybe a certain technique works for many people, but is there something different that I could try that would suit me better? So I always try to explore anything that I learn, anything that I read about. I try to apply it to my life, but then I also try to find out if there are other ways of doing the same thing. So many of you out there might be practicing this habit of beginning your day with the hardest or the most difficult task. But here's what I discovered a few years ago. I found out that I am actually a whole lot more productive when I begin with the easier tasks and the simpler tasks, because I am a huge advocate of building momentum. While I may be called a motivational speaker, I prefer to be called a momentum speaker because I think motivation is constantly out of stock. It's never there when you need it. But what you can reach out to and what you can tap into and what you can leverage is momentum, right? Which is taking the first small, easy, simple step and then building that momentum till you're able to build enough courage, enough energy, enough focus to do the difficult tasks. I just find that when, we think of starting our day with the most difficult task, because the task is so big, because the task is so vast, because it's so complex, we get overwhelmed, and that leads to procrastination. We say, yes, I know that's the task I've got to begin with, but you know what? I'll first have a coffee. You know what? Before that, I'll just go and water the plants. Before that, I'll just start the washing machine, and then I'll get started. We keep pushing it off because we know it is larger than life. So what I like to do is I like to have a few wins under my belt before I get started with the really complex stuff. Because when I do some easy things first, I get a sense of accomplishment. I get a feel-good sense of, you know what? Everything is doable. I feel a sense of enthusiasm because I've already achieved a few small things first thing in the day. And therefore, I'm able to tackle the bigger projects with far more enthusiasm than if I had tried approaching those big tasks first thing in the morning. Okay, so if you haven't been very productive or if you've been procrastinating, maybe you can try my technique of beginning your day with one or two small, easy tasks. Even if they're ridiculously easy and take a very short amount of time, get them struck off your to-do list. It's going to fill you with renewed enthusiasm and energy, and you're going to be able to feel as though that big task that had seemed so undoable and so complex until moments ago suddenly seems not so scary. Okay? All right, Philomena says, I start slow, small tasks, then I build up momentum. That's right, Philomena, and that's exactly what I do too. Start small, start with the easy steps. Because, when you wake up in the morning, you're still a bit sluggish and you haven't really woken up. And some people need 3 cups of coffee before they come alive, whatever the case may be, right? So if you directly decide to tackle the big, massive project, how on earth are you going to get that motivation? You're not. You're going to keep pushing it off. Instead, take the easy way. Do the small, easy tasks first. Trust me, it will build momentum and you will feel as though you can tackle the bigger tasks. It's worked for me. Try it out. If you've always been doing the harder tasks first, try this out for a change and see if it works for you. All right, so the last technique I'm going to share with you today. Okay, this has got a little story as well. Okay, so I'm going to firstly tell you about a psychological concept called the Ziggernick Effect. The Ziggernick Effect. Let me explain what that is. Once upon a time, long, long ago, probably in the early 1900s, there was a Russian psychologist by the name of Ziggernick. Now, Bloomer Ziggernick was a very smart young woman, and she made an interesting observation. Whenever she went out with her friends to restaurants or cafes for meals, lunches, or dinners, she made some very interesting observations. What did she observe? She observed that the waiters who were taking their orders were able to demonstrate superhuman capacity to remember incredibly long and complex orders without taking notes. They were not taking down notes or writing down the orders. They were able to remember what every person at the table had ordered. Okay? But surprisingly, once the order had been served, they could no longer remember what had been ordered. Now, Bloomer Ziggernick started thinking about this, reflecting on this, okay? And she came up with the discovery that human beings need closure. If there's an open loop in our brain, if a task is incomplete, if a task is in progress, we tend to remember those tasks more easily than tasks where we have closure, tasks where we have completed the full loop. Okay, so basically what that means is that the human brain is able to recall incomplete or unfinished tasks more easily than tasks that we have completed. How does that apply to our everyday working life? Has it ever happened that you are at your laptop deeply focused on this Excel spreadsheet that you're working on for your manager, and suddenly out of nowhere you remember, oh no, I had to make this call to so and so and I completely forgot. Oh no, I had to send this email. Oh no, I haven't done this. Oh no, I left that incomplete. Has that ever happened to you where you are focused on something and out of nowhere, a random thought comes reminding you of something you have left undone? Has it ever happened? It certainly happened to me. Now, what happens if you are working and you suddenly remember, oh, I've got to make that call. Oh, I've got to send that email. What do? We attend to it straight away because we've suddenly remembered it, right? So we attend to it straight away and we lose momentum with the task that we were working on up until then. So when you finish that urgent call, you finish that email and you come back to this task, you now have to completely recalibrate your brain, refocus to get started with that task all over again. That's where you waste time. That's why you slow down. So here's what I do. So the Ziggernick effect is basically what Bloomer Ziggernick discovered all those years ago, is that we recall incomplete tasks randomly because the human brain wants closure. Once we've finished something, we often don't remember it. But we, out of nowhere, will remember tasks that we forgot to do or that we left undone. So, being human, what happens when I am working, let's say I am writing a chapter for my next book, and writers have to be incredibly focused, otherwise our books are never going to see the light of day. So let's say I'm writing an important chapter, and out of nowhere I remember that I completely forgot last night to make this call to so-and-so, or I forgot to make the dentist appointment, or whatever the case may be. What I do now is I keep a notebook handy to capture and catch all those distracting thoughts. Okay, so I don't get up and get those done. I keep a notepad there or a notebook, and as the thought comes into my mind, I just jot down bullet points to remind me later. Now, if I am doing the Pomodoro Technique, which I mentioned at the start of today's session, why would I want to interrupt the 25-minute cycle to go and make this call? Right? I can do it in my 5-minute break. It's not, most situations are not do or die situations, right? We make it out to be like, oh my God, if I don't attend to it right away, it's doomsday. But it's nothing like that. It can wait. Do it in your 5-minute break between the Pomodoros, or do it at the end of the day, or do it in your 30-minute break, which happens at the end of the 4 Pomodoros. Whatever it is, the strategy I'm trying to highlight here is Don't give in to those distracting thoughts that come in, reminding you of things you left undone. Capture those thoughts by writing them down on a notepad, which you must keep handy exactly for that purpose. And when you next get a moment to breathe, a moment to do something other than the task you've been working on, that's when you tackle those random thoughts. All right, so those were my top three strategies for being productive. I hope you enjoyed some of the stories and a little bit of backdrop that I gave you all with those techniques. I'm going to try and do that a little bit more often. Since I'm a storyteller at heart, I quite enjoy actually, coupling the stories with the techniques that I share. So I'm going to try that in my next few sessions as well. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me do a very quick recap of what I've talked about, the three strategies. So the first strategy was the Pomodoro Technique, where you work on single tasks for 25-minute intervals. After each Pomodoro, so each 25-minute cycle is a Pomodoro, you take a 5-minute break. And after 4 Pomodoros, you take a 15 to 30-minute break. Okay, the second technique was about me starting with the easiest task first, building momentum, and then tackling the harder task. I just find that I'm much more productive when I do that. And the last technique is the Ziggernick Effect, which what Bloomer Ziggernick said all those years ago is we remember unfinished tasks easier than finished tasks. So every time you get a random thought while you're in the middle of working, don't jump up and go and do that task. Just write it down somewhere and revisit it once you are done with whatever it is that you're working on. So that's it, my lovelies. I hope you've enjoyed it. Dipali says, I love Pomodoro. I love it too. It's such an amazing technique. I'm so glad it was invented by all these clever inventors. Bernadette says, absolutely love your work and your techniques. Thank you very much, Bernadette. Neha says, great tips. Thank you, Neha. Well, I'm going to run off and have my cup of coffee. Tomorrow is Monday, so I will be practicing my Pomodoro techniques. I'll probably start my day with some easy tasks. And of course, I'll have my notebook handy to capture all those little thoughts that come knocking at my mind's door, reminding me of the 50 million things that I have left undone. All right. Philomena says, avoiding distractions. Yep. That's it. One must avoid distractions at all costs, and they're all around us. Prahlad says, enriching session. Thank you very much, Prahlad. Alrighty, everyone. Have a great week ahead. Remember, don't stress about the things that are outside your control, and definitely take action on things that are within your control. Have an awesome week. I'll see you next week. Bye.